So what we're going to do next is we're going to hear from Victor Armstrong, who is the board chair of the Rockingham County Partnership for Children. And Victor serves as that board chair. He served he served that role since November of 2009. He currently works for Center Point Human Services as a community operations manager. CPHS is the local management entity that has oversight for the mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disability services for Forsyth, Stokes, Davie, and Rockingham counties. You know, throughout his career, we're lucky to have several folks who have been long-standing, if not lifetime, volunteers for Smart Start. Victor, not unlike our Reverend Horton or our former chair, Ashley Thrift, or Harold Sellers, who sits on our board, or Peter Mars, who sits on our board, have served as board chairs or served on the boards in more than one county. And Victor's been on the local partnership board for Washington Terrell, and then also Beaufort High. So we're delighted that he's here today to talk to us a little bit more about their experience in Rockingham County and give us a sense from the local perspective of what it is we think is possible for systems-based decision making. So Victor, will you join me?
Good morning. Good morning. Put my glasses on. I have to always remind myself to grab them when I leave the house. I haven't been old that long, so I haven't had my glasses for a long time. As I was listening to Stephanie's presentation, one of the things that I liked was her definition of a system. As describing a system as multiple components that interact together to benefit the whole. And the idea that Smart Start is not a program, but a system. Therefore, our local partnerships also are systems. Our local partnerships operate within systems. Your local community is a system. So when we think about systems-based decision-making, it sounds really, really daunting. It sounds really, really important. It sounds really, really confusing. When I say it, I almost want to just, sit up straight and look very, very serious when I say systems-based decision-making. I was talking to my supervisor at work, and I was telling her that I was presenting this morning on systems-based decision-making. And she said, "Oh, you got to tell me about that sometime because it's I just know nothing about that." And I, of course, said, "Well, that's because you're not as smart as I am." Well, she's not, but I didn't tell her that. But actually, we do it every day. We just don't always know that we do it. And we don't always necessarily do the best job of doing it because I think that oftentimes we don't factor in all of the necessary information that we need in order to make the right decisions and the right choices. But I want to talk to you about it in one of the most basic things that we do, and that is in selecting our local boards. We use systems-based decision-making. As Stephanie described, we have certain mandated positions on our board. But we also realize that our boards are reflections of our local community. So that when we choose folks for our boards, we are choosing folks that reflect our local community and the makeup of our local community. Can y'all hear me if I move a little bit? I've had a lot of caffeine today. It's kind of hard for me to stand still. But let me tell you a quick story about how we make decisions and how we are reflective of our environment, of our community. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, the son of a minister. Now, I don't know how many of you know what it's like to grow up a child of a minister. But when your father is the pastor, people give the family stuff all the time. So, and especially, no more than they pay local ministers in the rural South, they had to give you stuff if you didn't have it. So as a child, you were always getting stuff. So I was one of 5 kids. And so I was always getting stuff, hand-me-down stuff, not just from my older brother, but also from other folks' kids in the church. Well, this one time, this lady gave my family 2 pairs of boots. Beautiful, nice, shiny boots. One was a black pair, one was a brown pair. Now in my family, there are 3 boys, 2 girls. Had one brother older, one younger, and 2 younger sisters. Well, the boots just happened to fit me and my younger brother. However, the thing I never took into account was that this lady only had daughters. So when she gave us those boots, I was so proud of those brand new shiny black boots. And these were boots, the kind that laced all the way up to the knee. I had the black pair, my younger brother had the brown pair. He decided he put these in the closet, not me. I had to wear mine the first day I got it. And I was so proud of those brand new shiny black boots that I tucked my pants in the boots and laced them all the way up to the knee. I looked something like a cross between a pirate and a prostitute. I'm not sure. But I had no idea that what I had on did not reflect who I was in the eyes of my peers. So when I stepped off the school bus, I was quickly reminded, or quickly notified that I had on the wrong boots. Those were not boots for a 9-year-old boy. Those were boots probably for a 12-year-old girl. But what does that have to do with systems-based decision making? Well, how do you know when you are dressed correctly in the eyes of your peers, in the eyes of your community? We live within a community that has within it norms, that has within it customs, that has within it things that are normal to our specific community. There are things about Rockingham County that are specific to Rockingham County, and if we're not aware of those things and take those things into account, we will not be reflective of our system. We will not make decisions that reflect who we are within that system. Now, I think our ED, Heather Kilpatrick, who's here with me today, does a masterful job of helping keep us on track in terms of board selections. We know certain things about the system that we work in. Now, we already know that we have the mandated positions that are handed down from the state. But then we have some discretion over other decisions that we make. So when we make those decisions realizing that we're a part not only of the state system, but we're also a part of that local system. So we know a few things about Rockingham County. We know that Rockingham County is divided by 2 rivers that pretty much divide the county into 3 fairly equal sections. We have the east area, the regional area, and the western Rockingham area. And you best believe that folks in those 3 areas are watching very closely to see if there's representation from their areas. And if we don't reflect that representation, we will hear about it. So we have to be mindful that in our system, those things are important to people. And I know that many of you come from counties where you understand that sectionalism, that territorialism, and it's very important to people. We also know that in Rockingham County, our makeup of our population is approximately 25 to 28% African American. Our board is reflective of this. Our board makeup right now is about 25% African American. We also know that in Rockingham County, there are certain things that folks look for in terms of the age makeup. We live in an aging county. But we know that right now, our population in the county is broken down so that we have approximately 55% or so of our population is in the 35 to 55-year-old age range. We have a smaller percentage of our population that's in the 25 and under age range, but we know we have a growing population that's in that 55 and older age range. So we have to be reflective of those things as we're putting together our board. One of the things that we are also very mindful of is the changing roles within the community of folks in the community. We know that now we have to be much more mindful of grandparents raising grandchildren. So we try to structure programs around those things. We try to have our board reflect those folks in our community and be mindful of those things that are going on in the community. We also know that within any system, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be things that you have to be mindful of if you are going to continue to be reflective of your system, and if you're going to be able to continue to operate within that system and be effective in what you do. We understand that in doing that, as things change, as the system changes, we also have to change. So one of the things that we're looking at now is that we need Hispanic representation on our board. We're looking right now at how we accomplish that. We also know that we need to bring more younger people on our board. We have folks that are in the 25 to 35 or so age range, but most of those are around that 35-year-old age group. We saw in the last election the amount of influence that young people had on the election. So we know that we need to be representative of that younger population. One of the things we're looking at right now is we have programs for teen parents. How do we get a teen parent on our board to be representative of that population? Those are things that we have to be mindful of and things we have to look at. The other thing that we have to be mindful of is that, particularly in rural counties, folks are slow to change. So we have to bring our board along and explain to them why we need to do this. And trust me, it is much easier to explain to people if you explain it to them in terms of a system than it is to explain to them in terms of, well, I just think this is a good idea. If I can explain to them that we are operating in a system and that we are a subsystem within that system, we need to be reflective of what our community looks like and be representative of all of our community and be representative and be aware that every component, every piece in that system affects every other piece in that system. That we need to be prepared to change so that we are more reflective. Prepared to change because no matter how you feel about a certain segment of the population, that segment of the population affects the outcomes of every child in your community. And our system is only going to be as strong as we make it based upon the components that we bring to the table, based upon the decisions that we make. So now when you leave here today, you can proudly tell everybody you are an expert in systems-based decision making. Thank you.